Shalom, family. Thank you so much for joining us here at Remnant House, the home of the strong and very courageous, for our weekly news update, where we're always informed without being overwhelmed. This is where we gather once a week, folks. So generally, we like to encourage everybody to share the links, get out there and encourage others to like and subscribe if you haven't already, and check to make sure you stayed subscribed. Little sneaky guys going on, doing little sneaky things. Just so you know, I found myself unsubscribed from channels that I deliberately went to make sure I subscribed to, and suddenly found issues. So just make sure that you stay connected with us so that we can continue to communicate over these difficult days. And how many know that your enemy is walking about like a roaring lion, seeking whom he may devour? Notice the word may means he requires permission. Don't give him any. In this day, we want to stand really strong. Amen and amen. And again, thank you so much for joining us. All of you who are with us, or of course, our regular listeners or regulars are with us today. Thank you so much. And today we want to encourage those of you that are praying for your brethren, that are standing in faith. Do not give up. What does the scripture say? Do not be weary in well-doing, for in due season you will reap if you faint not. So we need to stay faithful, praying for our brothers and sisters. Maybe you're praying for your neighbors. Maybe you're praying for your loved ones. Maybe you're interceding for those that are struggling right now. Continue pressing. I believe you will see the victory. And we do have this wonderful website for those of you that are joining us perhaps for the first time at remnantwatch.com. That's remnantwatch.com. And you'll find this handy dandy banner right at the top that'll always bring you to the latest weekly news update. Now, of course, we only do these once a week because doing them too often meant we were getting overwhelmed, and doing them not enough meant that we were uninformed. So we had to find that happy medium, and this is where we landed. And of course, we have our top story, and then we continue on from there. You can always search back on previous stories to find anything that we've covered in the past and to discover trends, because I think there's a tremendous amount of information there that you may miss if you're not noticing the trends that are starting to happen, right, folks? So we got to pay attention to patterns. And that's one thing that my personality type very much gravitates toward. I'm an INFJ, so that means I'm a pattern watcher. That combined with an Aquarius, I tell you what, it's hard to get stuff past you. Some of you might be pattern watchers too as well. Maybe you're one of those people that pay attention to details and get and see things as they pattern out. Patterns don't lie. People do. Things do, but patterns don't. Patterns are something that you can trust. And that's why I rely on watching patterns. And what I've noticed is that there's a tremendous amount of deception that is, of course, recycling. So if I could go back 15 years, you might see some of like a lot of the same stories, the same sensationalism, same buildup, the same hype, overhype. Some of you may be picking it up as well. And you've noticed the pattern of hype, the pattern of the same hype, by the way, that continues on a cycle almost. And it has an impact on the masses. Okay. And you need to really be careful when following the masses, because sometimes that M is silent. Oh man, it's a great joke. I heard that on Facebook, and I always thought that's a great joke. Sometimes those M's are silent. And again, thank you, all of you who are joining us. I see some of our beautiful brothers and sisters from around the earth. Feel free to pipe in and certainly ask any questions you want to ask. And on that note, let's get into the news. And tonight's top story is U.S. and Iran are firing. They're threatening. They're trading fire and is threatening a fragile truce. And at this point, I don't think anybody is buying the truce program. U.S. and Iran trade fire, threatening fragile truce, and U.S. President Donald Trump says the ceasefire with Iran was still in place despite an Iranian attack on 3 American destroyers. Okay, so apparently a ceasefire doesn't mean ceasefire. Apparently means something else. And of course, we saw that 3 American destroyers in the Straits Armor that fanned fears Friday that truce was faltering. So the U.S. military said it carried out strikes on Iranian military targets in response, although Tehran charged it was Washington that initiated the exchange of fire. And the latest violence threatens to unravel a fragile truce in effect since April 8th that brought an end to weeks of U.S.-Israeli attacks on the Islamic Republic, which has retaliated with strikes across the Middle East and by blocking the Strait, a vital route for oil and gas shipments. The United Arab Emirates said Friday that its air defenses were engaging missile and drone attacks originating from Iran. Asked in Washington Thursday if Iran's ceasefire was still on, Trump said, "Yeah, it is. They trifled with us today. We blew them away. They trifled. I call that a trifle." Okay. So now we have a ceasefire with trifling. Is that what that is? A ceasefire with some trifling going on. Just some trifling. Lives get lost in this kind of trifling, and I'm pretty sure the people that are under fire would call that war. So this is just more gamesmanship and nonsense that's being thrown at us to make it look as if they're doing better than they are. Iran does not seem plussed. They seem nonplussed. They seem quite determined to continue. Whether that's bravado or not really doesn't matter a whole lot, because essentially it affects the net result. So we're going to continue to keep an eye on this area, this theater of operations, as it's called militarily, until we see a resolution. And I do believe we are going to continue to see loss of life. U.S. forces hit tankers trying to break the Iran blockade, as the military says the embargo has stalled 70 ships. So this is just a few days ago that this report came out, indicating that Washington, U.S. military launched a new strike of airstrikes Friday, targeting a group of empty tankers in the Strait of Hormuz that were trying to barrel through the blockade of Iranian ports, according to U.S. Central Command. And so there's continuing brinksmanship going on in the Gulf, and this is going to, of course, continue to roil the markets, which we're starting to see the effect of here where it matters, right? Where people live. And of course, those are in the theater of operations. Those that are in Iran or in the Middle East are most certainly in peril. But don't think for a moment that a conflict going on there will have no impact on you here, because you would be most certainly incorrect. And even if they were to drill tomorrow, okay, literally start drilling tomorrow, it would take time for that oil to hit infrastructure. So we are definitely in a tough situation. And it appears that Canada, joining together with other NATO forces, are now arrayed against the United States. So Canada, which supplies a significant amount of U.S. oil, is now opposed. We've got new challenges underfoot. So again, remember that these things do ripple. And Iran war is crushing Asia's farmers, threatening global food supply. We continue to see more and more warnings concerning the food supply. I think that's a very, very stark warning. Prices of fuel and fertilizer are pushing farmers to make irreversible cuts as they enter the key planting season. And if they don't get that in the grip, you remember they only have a limited window. Farmers don't have the luxury of dealing with politics. Farmers have weather, and that is all that governs what they can and cannot do. And so when the farmers attack, we are all in trouble. And basically the rice crops in 19 hectares of farmland in Thailand are in threat. So we already had, by the way, without getting too deep into this particular story, we already had a food challenge. How many know that as it was, we were having suspicious rice being delivered across the world, some mixed with artificial rice made by other means, right? And we saw videos, and we saw Instagrams, and we saw TikToks on this very issue. So now on top of that, they still have market. They still have people with demand. But now the incentive to create alternatives has just risen because you can't get the crop in the ground. And you're asking them to turn down that money? They're not going to turn down that money. They're just going to find a different way to deliver that product. Folks, we're in big trouble here. And I'm going to tell you right now that food quality and trickery and games being played with food are about to go to a new level because it's becoming more valuable, right? The more something becomes valuable, the more incentive criminality and shadiness has to play games. So buyer beware. We're all going to have to be a lot more astute in our purchasing. And again, here we go, folks. May as well start getting used to the concept of buying and supporting local producers, people you can trust. Okay. And this is not going to go away anytime soon. And frankly, I think it was a very bad idea. And I know a lot of you agree with me that it was a really bad idea to give away this level of power, this level of authority in our lives over something so critical. So how many of you are feeling the urge to say, oh, we need to take this back? We've got a whole line, a few acre line on one of our back fences. We're just talking today about putting a literal line of greenhouses right across that back fence, which you barely even notice them, but they would be humongous in just providing surplus food stuff, if you will, not only for us, but for our cattle and other animals as well. So this is not a small matter to start taking this seriously, folks. And I want to encourage you, wherever you are, to start thinking about reallocating land, reallocating resources. And again, you may say, I'm not a farmer. You don't have to be anymore. I'm going off the reservation here for a moment because I really think this is an important point. You don't have to be. They got so many hydroponic and aquaponic systems now that are so automated. You could be, frankly, a bumbling idiot. You could have a brown thumb. And with just a barakah from Yahuwah, you're going to grow all kinds of stuff. All right. So you could turn your garage into a growing operations if you really wanted to. Reach out to us. We've got some folks that know how to grow food indoors and have done it successfully. So it's something that we're going to have to start thinking about, especially those of you that are landlocked or city bound in difficult places. If you are in a city, you are an inner city person, and you're like, Peter, I can't get to where I can't get to farmland. I can't do that. I got a plan for you. Reach out to me, and we're going to work together. Those of you that are in inner cities, if you're in an inner city and you want to be aggressive and have a plan, I've got one for you. You reach out to me. I'll be happy to work with you. And I mean that sincerely. We need people that are courageous in this hour, that are ready to turn the tide, because I got news for you, folks. They're not going to warn you ahead of time that the grocery store is empty. They're not going to let you know ahead of time that the food's been poisoned. You're going to find out after the fact. And that's the worst time to find out you need a remedy, right? And so let's get back to what's going on around the world. In the U.S. sinks 6 small Iranian ships as Trump warns regime could be blown off the face of the earth. So much for peace, right? So this was last week, but we're seeing that this really is a fragile thing, which means that you cannot rely on everything going back to status quo. I think that's very foolish thinking. The U.S. forces Monday sank 6 small Iranian boats deployed to harass vessels struck in the Straits of Hormuz, shortly before President Trump warned that the Islamic Republic will be blown off the face of the earth if it interferes with efforts to reopen the crucial waterway. And then he reached out to other countries to help. Because it turns out that Iran's got a lot more weaponry than the U.S. wants to admit. And they're laying out as much damage as they're taking. So if you look at Israel right now, which you are not allowed to know, this is not official. So you're not allowed to know what's going on in Israel. You're not allowed to take pictures. You're not allowed to look at damage. Any of that you've seen, that's all illegal. You're not supposed to look at that. Don't look. Do not look. Okay, because that's all illegal. Don't look at it. But rumors are they're not doing so good. So there's that. And unfortunately, because they can't reach out, because they can't report, because they can't talk about it, it's going to be more difficult for people to help people inside of Israel. So think that through. Those that are there are going to be more or less captured. And now you may as well say the war is back on, because Iran is crowing. And it's saying we're just getting started after Dubai blitz. So they nailed Dubai. Trump refuses to say if the ceasefire is still in effect. So now we're changing. And of course, he's threatening again, and Iran's going to be blown away. And again, they don't look worried. They do not look worried. And so Trump sank 7 Iranian small boats in the Straits of Hormuz as he launched Project Freedom. But again, we have seen the so-called project stall, because you have to have the support. You have to have, well, how did George Bush Sr. say it? A coalition of nations. We built a coalition of nations for the rule of order, for the rule of law. Remember that, guys? And we got lectured on the rule of law, the rule of law. And without that, you go it alone. And that's exactly what's happened to the United States. We basically got named a rogue country, and now countries are standing up against. So this is bad. And especially those that live in the United States, it's only going to get worse, unfortunately, for those of us that are here, hoping for a better answer. But unfortunately, that just isn't the case at the moment. So we're going to be living with the repercussions of this for some time, folks. That's reality. That's what we're going to be dealing with, whether we like it or not. In fact, Whirlpool has just come out and said that the Iran war is causing a recession level industry decline. The shares are down 12%, and it's looking bad across sectors. So war in Iran resulted in a recession level industry decline in the U.S. as consumer confidence collapsed in late February and March. And again, this causes, what does this cause? What's the effect? Well, it's the same effect that happened in 9/11, if you guys remember. When 9/11 hit, all commerce pretty much stopped. For the vast majority of people, it took them a minute to get back into the norm. This has a massive impact on economies. Things just literally stop as people sort of reset and recover. And so now that we have an extended conflict going on, I believe that you're seeing more and more the economy in shock. And it was already struggling as it was. It already took a pretty good hit with COVID, if you remember. So that made a devastated inner city real estate. It devastated valuations. It devastated the ability of real estate companies and owners to refinance those properties that they rely on that refinancing cyclically to keep this whole machine working. And so this just-in-time city mochaccino land program that they are running in the West is hanging on a thread. And it looks like the thread is starting to fray. And so again, this is why we caution everyone out there at the sound of my voice, within the sound of my voice, to be sober and vigilant in this hour, especially with regard to providing for your family and keeping your family safe. Okay. Again, if you wait until the politicians tell you there's a problem, it's too late. Okay. If you wait for them, it's too late. And right now, what do they do? What do they typically do when there's a problem? I'll tell you what they typically do. This is something you always want to look for. When there's a real problem, and I mean a real problem, it'll leak that they're having high-level meetings about the problem, whatever that problem is. Whatever that problem is, it's going to suddenly have high-level meetings, and they're going to try to figure out ways to shut that problem down. Except by the time they have the high-level meetings, usually the problem is already out of control. Here's a good example. J.D. Vance is holding a chilling closed-door summit with America's most powerful men as horrifying global threat menacing hospital spirals. And this is real. The technology he spent months championing is now threatening to tear through America's banks, hospitals, and water plants. This, of course, is stupid intelligence. It's not, I'm done calling it artificial. It must be dumb because it just does harm. And on April phone call with the country's most powerful tech executives, geniuses who can't figure out their way out of a basic room with a door, the vice president sounded the alarm and the runway dangers of their own creations. Yes, because they built machines that lie and built it on approximation as opposed to accuracy. I could go on all day. On the line were some of the richest men on the planet: Elon Musk, OpenAI Sam Altman, Anthropic CEO Dan Amajay, Google's chief Sundar Pichai, and Microsoft's Satya Nadella, whatever they are. We all need to work together on this. They are the problem. They can't fix themselves. You need somebody else. I hate to break it to you, but they aren't going to solve anything. All they're going to do is make it worse. So again, political leaders usually don't know what they're doing. They throw money and names at problems. They throw big shot-itis at problems. This solves nothing. And we're going to get back to the AI problem as we go. But for right now, I want to take a quick look at what's going on around the world. And one of the things that we're seeing happening in Great Britain. So again, 5 minutes in front of us, right? Because they adopt these policies that they're trying to shove our way. Pay attention to what's going on. 200,000. Watch this, guys. Didn't we just see this on our southern border a few years ago? Yep, they got the equivalent going on over there. 200,000 small boat arrivals loom amid UK raising threat level to severe following recent terror attack. The migrant boat crossing began in 2018. Nigel Farage warned many crossings are unidentified young males of fighting age. Fighting age, and the United Kingdom is raised its national terror level threat level to severe, meaning an attack is considered highly likely. And it's almost like they're inviting it. Security experts are warning that Britain's great separate illegal immigration crisis is adding to broader concerns over border control and vetting. The small boat crossings, nearly 200,000 arrivals since 2018. That's unauthorized, not going through any checkpoints. Nobody knows who you are, and you're just barreling into a country. That, my friends, used to be called an invasion. I'm just saying, if just 100 years ago, they would have called out the army. This is an invasion, okay? And they don't even see it. So once again, for our United Kingdom citizens, our British citizens, pay attention. Because if you're waiting for them to tell you we've got a problem, it's usually when it's too late. And I do believe that that's what's awakening right now in Europe. Europe is waking up to the reality that it got sold. You know, nobody knows who the buyer was, but they definitely know they got sold, right? And so this is going to continue to be a major, major challenge as we go. We're going to shift back over to the AI challenge. And again, this is not going away, folks. We're going to continue to see this. And now we're seeing, again, because of the geniuses they got in the labs, who I'm so upset with them, I can't even tell you the technology, the things that we have seen. And we are working at a breakneck speed. We're beta testing Angel DX against benchmarks right now. It's going to probably be a little bit yet before we're done. But I got to tell you, we can't move fast enough to solve some of this. And we have a completely different solution than what they are offering the world. Let me put it to you like this. Can I go on a little quick soapbox real quick? Elon Musk just finished a data center in, I don't know, Oklahoma or Tennessee or somewhere in the middle of the country, bought a bunch of land, and has built this giant data center. Well, I just tell you, it's got 220,000 GPUs in it. I know that's a lot. You guys don't have a way to quantify that, but let me just put it to you this way. That one data center, just the one that he built, just that one would be enough for all of Earth to chat nonstop at the same time with Angel DX, which means you could close all the other data centers. Yeah, that give you a perspective. That's why I'm like, wow, I'm lit. Okay. And look what they're losing. No one has done this in the wild. Study observes AI replicating itself. World is approaching a point where nobody can stop or shut down a rogue AI. It's a director of body research. That's right. And they're not going to be able to because they need ImageLock DX and they don't have it. We're the only ones with that patent. It's the stuff of science fiction cinema or particularly breathless AI company blog posts and new research finds recent AI systems can independently copy themselves onto other computers, which they're going to blame the AI for the fact that Google just dropped a 4 gigabyte file on all of your phones, laptops, and PCs everywhere. You're going to find it if you go take a look for it. It's there, and don't blame the AI. That was Google doing that. In this dome scenario, this means when the super intelligent AI goes rogue, it will escape shutdown by seeding itself across the World Wide Web, lurking outside the reach of frantic AI professionals who continue to plot world domination or paving over the world with solar panels. We're rapidly approaching the point where no one would be able to shut down a rogue AI. Nonsense. Okay, I want you to know that that is utter and complete nonsense. Just please hear me. That is utter and complete nonsense, meant to scare you. That is not true. We shut it down all the time. It can get as rogue as it wants. I'm telling you, we have tools that they don't have. And as a result, we have patents they don't have. And as a result, they will not be able, they don't have the solutions. We do. We have a lock that no man can open, and we can shut a door and AI can't open. That's right. An AI with 1,000 years and 1,000 Cray computers could not crack image lock. So, in fact, it only gets stronger the smarter the AI gets. Oops. It's only lock designed to overcome the AI era, the entire era. All the rest of them will fall. That's why they're having summits, because they can't figure it out. Tell them to come talk to the strong and very courageous. And right now, these AI agents are agents of chaos running riot inside of companies. So we warned them because of what they built it on. They built them on sand with wickedness. Okay. You need to be ready for what is coming. The once theoretical idea of rogue artificial intelligence within corporate systems is now becoming a reality. And why? Because they put crazy to work and they did not have foundation that would be solid. Angel DX is just built different. We're not an LLM. We are DLM, Divine Language Model. And that, my friends, is a whole different animal. And you're going to see how that impacts the market very shortly. And this is what they're aiming at. They want to bridge the gap so that they can take full control of every aspect of communication with you all. Watch this now, because they're rejecting church and state separation now. This is a new conversation that is going on. Why? I want you to think about this. Come on, you guys are smart. You're sharp people, okay? You're very sharp people. I can't spoon feed it all to you, so figure it out. Why in the world would they start rejecting this doctrine that has been in place for the entirety of the United States' existence? And for the first time, you're seeing headlines of them rejecting church and state separation. The separation of church and state is on the wish list for Trump's Religious Liberty Commission. It's not just on the wish list, it's required. They have got to close this gap. If they don't, they can't pull off their next move. And see, folks, here it goes. We're getting dicey, scary, and weird right now. And what's happening with the voices that are supposed to meant to be countering that? Well, the shepherds that are supposed to be raising up. What happened? Well, Jeremiah 23 told us and warned. And I went through this nation. I continue to warn these shepherds. And now, apparently, the nation is starting to feel the effects of these warnings. Take a look at this. America's pastor's pipeline is collapsing. Wonder who's doing that. Okay. And fewer Americans want to become pastors, accelerating a leadership vacuum inside one of the country's oldest civic institutions, because they are losing this battle. They are figuring out that they were promoting doctrines of devils, that they were preaching that which was profane, not even realizing that they were promoting a altar that gives you a third and fourth generational curse. Didn't even figure that out. Now, as they figure it out, do they come and say, mea culpa, we're sorry, or come to the correct one? No, they just resign. They don't say a word. They just resign. Because to tell you what the problem is, of course, requires courage. Courage. And there's very little of that in our world. We have a lot of cowards and not a lot of courageous. Okay? And the entire church system. Yes, that's right, my brother. There was once a guy who went around and told everybody, prepare for the coming persecution. Thanks for the reminder, my brother. I appreciate that. Somebody that goes way back with me, back to the carrying of brimstone around a nation that didn't want to hear. And now it's become a mockery. And they're doing this on purpose, guys, to destroy the institutions. Okay? Which, you know, he told us, come out of my people, that you be not a partaker of her sins, right? So what kind of sins was he talking about? Well, these kind. This kind. This stuff. This nonsense that we keep seeing. Okay, now in this case, this was just some random person being crazy. But how many headlines have we seen with either clergy, church leaders, ministers? It's nonstop, isn't it, folks? And so a man is arrested for filming women in a Florida church restroom held in an immigration detainer. And a man is being held on an immigration detainer for $250,000 bail in Florida after being released earlier this week for allegedly filming women from the ceiling of a church restroom. How sick do you gotta get? First of all, what are you even going to get for footage? This is so dumb to me. I remember the first time I heard about this, a minister who put cameras in his 14-year-old's shower because he thought that was a good idea. Everybody say pedophile. That's craziness. Okay, lock that guy up because that's a step in a direction. How many know that that's moving in a direction? The guy's warming up. Okay, somebody's warming up here. I said somebody's warming up. So it's a good thing that got shut down. And a good thing that got caught. But this is what we're facing, folks. And how many know are starting to get concerned? And what's that going to do for meetings? What's that going to do for gatherings? But don't worry. South Koreans have figured it out. I'm telling you, they have figured it out. And they have decided that the answer is yet again artificial intelligence. Oh, yeah, South Korea. Watch this, guys. They named their first humanoid robot monk. And can you see where they would love to take you? I mean, if they could just talk you all into listening to a robot, wouldn't that just be awesome? I mean, it just would be awesome. Oh, wait, they did. Oh, wait, they did. A humanoid robot named Gabi joined the Buddhist faith on South Korea on Wednesday as the country strives to create coexistence between robots and society. Aw, isn't that just so great? Why don't we just all go watch an episode of Humans? And stuff like that. An unlikely new disciple joined the Buddhist faith on Wednesday as artificial intelligence intersects with spirituality in a first of its kind way. You see that? They're going to make you a little Buddhist. Isn't that great? That's what their real intention is. And if you don't figure it out now, you will be a slave. AI is sent to enslave you. You didn't even notice how. And so you will need the alternative in order for you to say, wow, that's different. Yeah, watch. You'll see. Meanwhile, back at the ranch in Florida, apparently the same guys who brought you 3 and 4 generational curses on altars, who couldn't figure out how to read Exodus 20 before they built these buildings all over the country, same guys are now telling you that this gold leaf statue, not an idol. It's not about worship. No, not about worship, which is why it has the likeness of a person you all revere. That is what worship is. Okay, so, this is not worship, and we worship again the false name. A massive gilded statue of President Trump installed on his Miami golf course is definitely not a golden calf to be worshipped. No, but it's noted all over the country, and won't people be going there to see it? So what do you call that? Pretty sure if you ask Yahuwah, he's going to tell you what his opinion is, and I'm pretty sure it isn't a pass. So this was blasphemous. This was blasphemous done and then promoted by churches and pastors in the most abominable ways. I'm sorry, I'm animated on that one. I'm literally doing a facepalm going, how dumb can we be? But apparently we're going to see the depth of just how far we can go down these rabbit holes. Folks, you're not to make graven images. That is a graven image put up on a stand with a man there in gold. Are you kidding me? Somebody say Nebuchadnezzar. This is nuts. And it's the same man bombing Iran. Sure, no, it's not worship. No, absolutely not. And what effect is it having? Well, it's pulling people out of those churches, I'll tell you that. The Southern Baptist membership has dropped to its lowest levels in 53 years. I'd love to hear your comments, by the way, guys. Okay, I'm very interested in what everybody else thinks about it, because I'm truly like stunned by what I see. Southern Baptist membership sank last year to its lowest level since 1973, and again, here we are in that Jubilee number. Even as the United States Protestant denomination saw increase in baptisms and attendance at services. So what's happening? The Southern Baptists were the most staunch promoters of some of the worst doctrine. That's why things that were found out to be utterly untrue, and they wouldn't let them go. So guess what? The truth is coming for those that are holding on to tradition over the truth. It's just that simple. And, of course, their numbers are going to continue to dwindle. You can read the article if you want to, but there's not a lot of hope for denominations that want to continue to hold on to that, which has already been proven to be false. Okay, we've got to wake up. We've got to move on with the pillar of fire and the pillar of smoke. Those that are staying back there saying, no, Egypt is still okay, we've left, right? And so this is what the big thing is going on. Now, there's a lot of overtures going on to try to create this peace with Iran. Trump's set to lift U.S. sanctions on Iran, free billions, and unlock uranium enrichment in an expected Obama-style peace proposal. That's what's the latest thing we're hearing, right? So because he needs a resolution to this, and they need it quick. Okay, this puts Iran in the driver's seat. Doesn't help. Trump is on the verge of securing a sweeping peace deal with Iran that would lift U.S. sanctions, free billions in frozen assets, and open a path to uranium enrichment, mirroring the Barack Obama pact he spent years trashing. So he fought against it, and now he's ending up on the same path. 1 page, 14-page memorandum understanding is being negotiated between the senior Iranian officials and Trump envoys Steve Witkoff and Jared Kushner. Once again, Jared Kushner, in the midst of it, the White House believes the memo could finalize a framework to end the war within 48 hours. So we have heard, and it was 5 days ago. So much for the 48-hour program. And as I understand it, Iran walked out of the meeting in less than an hour. It was something like 46 minutes was the last time they met, and or something to that effect, or maybe the retaliation occurred in 46 minutes. I think that's what it was. And that means they were already on the launcher when they were meeting. So this is not a pretty picture. And what's the ripple effect? Well, we're seeing the ripple effect right now, aren't we, folks? 81% of young Americans say economic conditions are bad or terrible, according to a survey. And so a lot of people are really getting hit. The people that we would think will be pulling through the strongest are having the toughest time. A recent survey by Generation Lab found that more than 8 of 10 young adults rate economic conditions in the United States as either bad or terrible. Now, again, remember, we're not talking about the most industrious generation we've ever seen. We're certainly not talking about the hardest working. So we have to take this with a bit of a grain of salt. But the survey conducted April 26 to 29 found that 55% of 546 respondents aged 18 to 24 said they view the economy as bad, while 29% said it was terrible. Of course, you're asking kids that are, starting their life. And so there is that. As for those in the 25 to 29 age range, 52% of 266 such respondents said the economy was bad. About 3 in 10 respondents said it was terrible, for a combined percentage of 81% that view the economy negatively. Well, it's hard not to. When you're seeing increases in double digits in costs, you're seeing no end in sight and policies that look like they're only going to make matters worse. Here's the good news. Those that are in the sell end of that are going to do well because they're going to increase their profit margins. So the question is, what end of that are you on? Too many Americans are finding themselves on the consumer end of this system. Time for you to become a producer, don't you think? And so again, it's a matter of a paradigm shift. We got suckered in the 70s and 80s with some very dumbing down, crazy teaching tools, and unfortunately left generations on their own to try to figure things out. And that's why you have a dumbed down society. So we are seeing the real effect of that, and consumers are literally running out of money toward the end of the month, according to Kraft Heinz CEO. While the digital U.S. economy, if proxied through the earnings growth and stock prices of AI companies and their picks and shovels support ecosystem, have never been stronger. Watch this now. Notice the divide. So we're saying the digital economy has never been stronger. The traditional, what does that mean? I'll explain here in a moment. The traditional U.S. consumer, responsible for 70% of the U.S. GDP, has rarely been more depressed than right now. According to the latest University of Michigan sentiment survey, Americans have literally never been more pessimistic. That was taken home message from last earnings week when various executives across retail, restaurants, and packaged goods indicated they're increasingly worried about U.S. shoppers. Why? Take a moment to explain this. See, in the 70s and 80s, they brought in a dumbing down program to make people, well, less intelligent. Now they're switching from an analog economy to a digital one, which puts pressure on intellect. No short way to say that. It's an intelligence test, and a lot of people are failing. This is why it's critical right now for the gifted in the body of Mashiach to work together with those that are struggling and create teams so that they all prosper together. If we only allow those who have figured it out to leave everyone behind, not only is that selfish and self-centered, but on top of that is not very graceful. So those that have figured it out, those that are doing well, those that are crossing into the best economy the U.S. has ever had, the digital one, need to grab a hold of their brethren who are in the analog version and help them along, right? Help them transition into a better scenario. Because if you leave them back there, all you're going to do is have to give to them. And how many know it's much wiser to teach a man to fish than to give him a fish? Amen. And so this is where we have to go. And unfortunately, there's no difference of the golden calf. And this is where we are right now, folks. This is why we need to have compassion. I know some of you figured it out. I know some of you got it going on. I know. You're not stupid. You're smart. You're sharp. You picked it up. You saw it prophetically and you got in front of it. My point is, please don't be so quiet about that. I get it. You don't want to tell the world. Okay, granted. I got you. Join your fellowships. Get together with your brethren. And then find people that are struggling. Help them out. You know, and I know, a couple of emails and a little point in the right direction, you'd be helping a lot. All right. You wouldn't even have to get that involved. You know enough. You know more. You've forgotten more than a lot of people know. Those of you that broke through. So help them out. Help out your brothers and sisters that are struggling in this digital economy, because they're going to need help, and they need people to walk them through it. Okay, not just send them a PDF. Walk them through it. Help them out. I believe that's the will of Yahuwah. Test me on that one. See if I'm right. What's on its way? A mega drought, folks. We got lots of news that is talking about weather going to affect the economy and affect lives going forward. We got a mega drought. We just experienced the driest first 3 months of a year in U.S. history. I want you to read that again. That is not good. Okay? January, February, and March were insanely dry. In fact, in all of U.S. history, conditions have never been so dry during the first 3 months of the year. Just think about that for a moment. Not even during the Dust Bowl days of the 1930s were conditions this dry. Now, by the way, we did get rain here at New Kingdom, which should be the driest place, right? I mean, we shouldn't even be close to it. And yet we did get rain here, so there's that. But the point is that we are looking at mega drought coming. Unfortunately, it appears it seems endless mega drought has gone to an entirely new level in 2026. And so places that a couple of years ago we were talking about having water shortages, right? We were talking about the water that feeds into Arizona, as well as Southern California, places that overbuilt, places that we just saw that Corpus Christi is potentially going to run out of water for the first time, a municipal city running out of water. These are new challenges that we did not face not very long ago. And so, my brethren, I want to encourage you to remember that we were warned. We were warned. As a matter of fact, I'm going to put this on the screen. And this was delivered on April 1st, 2014. That's how long ago this prophetic word was delivered to you all. And I continue to repost it because I like to make sure people get the message. That's my job. Amen. And on April 1st, 2014, long in advance, which is the way it's supposed to be. Some of you get a word and you think it's supposed to be next week. No, you're supposed to get time to react to it. Watch this now. The rise of universalist doctrine of devils led by you know who and prominent Protestant leaders. You see it? Do you see it? Okay. How about a massive war in the household of churchianity where brother shall deliver up brother for political expediency? Did you see that? Did you catch that? How about a massive, this one we're still waiting for. That's the one we're still waiting, right? How about pandemic, starvation, radiation, economic warfare? Anybody notice? Here's one right in front of your face right now. I said, here's one right in front of your face right now. They're going bonkers with this one. Dramatic UFO coverage goes mainstream. Governments and religious leaders acknowledge UFO phenomena. Not only are they acknowledging it, they're forcing them out there to talk about it. Are you seeing this? How about war in the Middle East breaks out? Mass loss of life. Anybody seen this? Okay. Alternative energy and commerce initiatives. Death squads. Missing scientists. Anybody? How about paper currency collapse? How about supernatural signs and wonders? Are you guys catching up yet? You guys catching up yet? These things are warned in advance for a reason. Accuracy cannot be faked. I said accuracy cannot be faked. That's why Yahuwah does these things, because then you know that was him. That wasn't man. There's no way a man could know that. Only Yahuwah. Amen. And so, as a matter of fact, when I wrote that list, when I first got it, I literally thought, what? I'm not even kidding. I literally was like, what? Dramatic? Remember that one specifically? Dramatic UFO coverage? Really? I'm looking forward to seeing that. Well, anybody? Anybody? Wow. When Yahuwah gives you a word, just hold it. Just hold on to it. When he say, write the vision, make it plain upon tables, so that he that reads it can run with it. And now here we go again with yet another version of Here We Go Again. How many have seen this movie before? Have you seen this movie before? I just want to know if you've seen this movie. I can't really talk much about it because you know how they get about this stuff. They love their games, right? So we just have to go, sure, absolutely, yeah, we didn't see this coming at all. Nope. You guys totally, wow, man, this is bad, huh? I bet you know what I bet, though, guys, you don't have to worry about a thing. You know why? I bet you they're going to come out with a takes care of the whole thing. I bet you. How much you want to bet? They're going to slap one of those there, and everybody's going to be awesome, right? Awesome sauce. Because they didn't catch you the first time, they're going to get you this time, right? So don't worry, because it's all taken care of. Their buddy over at Fizzer, they'll have it covered. So everybody calm down. And you know, this is reality. There was an economist who was famous for his 1969 and 1970 recession prediction. He also predicted a downturn for 2026. Schilling points to frozen housing market, collapsing capital expenditures, and weakening consumer spending. So again, the Iran war, partial shutdown, weigh on economic sentiment. And Gary Schilling, the legendary forecaster, known for his bearish accuracy and being fired from Merrill Lynch for predicting the 1969 and 70 recession, is sounding the alarm on the 2026 economic collapse. And there's a great article here. We're running out of time, so I'm going to go ahead and let you guys read that. But it does cover a lot of the material that we're talking about. And it's essentially confirming what we already know, which is that their system is collapsing because people are figuring it out. The same reason why they're not able to recruit more pastors to keep promoting their lies is the same reason why they're not able to get distributors to promote their food. The shift is on. This is why we need to get out of that. We need to get moving to local sourcing. Support your local farmer. Support your local farmer. Who agrees with me on that? Who agrees we should support our local farmer? Let me hear from you out there. If you think we should be supporting and standing with every local grower, every local business person who is sourcing locally, who agrees with that? If you do, let me see your hands, because I really believe we need to stand together and in the spirit push blessing toward those that are doing that kind of work, especially now in this hour. Now, one of the things that's caused, according to the scripture, why do we have whirlwind? Why do we have these judgments that are coming? Well, because of idolatry. The very thing, golden statues much. Okay, survivors of a missing tornadoes crawled under furniture, held on to their kids. This was crazy. These tornadoes are ripping through the country. And again, it's judgment. It's judgment, folks. And you can read this article. I'm not going to go into it in length. But essentially, you're going to continue to see more and more damage. In fact, this year is setting up for a very bad year for the whirlwind. Okay. And again, Americans aren't thrilled. So they're certainly complaining. One thing that I noted is that we are supposed to tread Watch this now. This story is not going away. We're supposed to tread on serpents and scorpions and over all the power of the enemy, that nothing should by any means hurt us. So don't you think it's interesting that in the news suddenly is a rising of rattlesnake bites? And this is the 7th one in this time period. So 7 different people have been attacked by snakes. Who thinks that's coincidental? Or is there a message in that? I do believe there is. I believe we're supposed to be treading on serpents and scorpions and over all the power of the wicked one, so that nothing should by any means hurt us. And we have given that up for fear. Remember, if you give up rights for security, you end up with neither. So hold on to your courage. And right now we're being warned that we're headed for the worst El Nino, which is a pattern of weather. Okay, just to be clear, we're headed for the worst El Nino in a century. That's according to this report being filed at the Washington Post. El Nino patterns are correlated with food shortages, water impacts, and evil civil conflict in tropical countries. And we're looking at a super El Nino, according to this report. Chances are rising that an El Nino expected to form soon could become one of the most powerful such events in record, according to new data released this week. The latest outlook from the European Center for Medium-Range Weather Forecasts shows water temperatures in a key region of the central equatorial Pacific Ocean potentially reaching 3 degrees Celsius above average late in the year. That could approach or even surpass the current records set in 1877 and 2015, and exceeding the threshold for a super El Nino. And this is bad. This is the 3rd consecutive month that multiple models have predicted that a potentially record-breaking El Nino could drive global temperatures to new highs. That's why it matters. Pay attention. And shift patterns of droughts, floods, heat, humidity, and sea ice across the planet. The coming conditions could have significant consequences for agriculture, health, and economy across the planet. Now, one of the biggest challenges that we're facing right now is that we've got to deal with weather that has gone kittywampus. How many know that we do have remedy? And if you, again, apply intelligence, you can remedy a lot of things. But if we continue down these same roads, expecting Mochaccino world to solve it, we're going to get what we're going to get. So I continue to adjure my brethren to take advantage of this time period while it's here, to be sober and vigilant in this hour. And gasoline, of course, another resource that we're seeing affected by this war, has gone to ridiculous levels. In fact, in California, it topped $7 per gallon in remote California county as the Iran war drives prices higher. Now, again, the California supply of oil is coming from that part of the world. So I'm not really sure what the thinking is in California, but nevertheless, that's the deal. So gas prices have climbed to eye-watering levels in one rural county, emerging as one of the most expensive fuel markets in the United States of America. The statewide average is $6.11 per gallon, even though the national average is $4.45 per gallon, which is, again, ridiculously expensive per gallon for an oil-producing nation. It's one thing if we were an oil-dependent nation, but we're an oil-producing nation. And so for that price to still be there tells you that the economy is collapsing, not just the oil market. It is the value of the dollar that is dropping in this market. So that's a major, major thing that we're seeing. Very quickly, we're continuing to follow these stories. One of the 11 disappeared scientists claims she was hit with the Pentagon's top secret weapon for revealing UFO theories. So again, these are things that are coming out in the news, and we're going, wow, look at this. Pentagon has announced that they employ specialized energy weapons for defense, seemingly vindicating the researcher who long warned about the tech. Department of War's Chief Technology Officer, Peter Michael, announced its development on an X post fittingly, or perhaps eerily, posted on May the 4th, more popularly known as National Star Wars Day, and indicating that, in fact, they do have such technology. So much for those that thought it was crazy, Star Trek stuff. No, apparently it's real. And it, in fact, was utilized against, well, what I imagine they would consider to be enemies, right? And so now religious leaders, by the way, are being told, and I don't trust this guy as far as you can throw him. I'll never forget his reaction to revelations about his personal conduct. But anyway, influential pastors are claiming that they have been told to prepare their followers for shocking revelations about UFOs, which may upend belief in the Bible. Look at this. We're going to upend belief in the scripture. Are you guys ready for that? You ready for an upending of your belief in the scripture? Because that's where they're aiming. Perry Stone, a well-known evangelist, because he gets people in the water, right? Author and Bible teacher from Tennessee, warned that fellow pastors were recently invited to a secret meeting. So much for that. It's not so secret if he's out here talking about it. According to Stone, the officials warned a small group of pastors with large reach in the Christian community that the government was about to release reports and possibly videos of aliens and spacecraft which are not from this planet. And the April 27th video posted on YouTube channel, the evangelist claimed that pastors were told about the existence of reptilian creatures, UFOs, and materials from a non-human origin. And these people then read the book of Enoch, and they, of course, don't know how the world really works. And so they're looking at a sanitized version of the scripture and are wondering why they don't know certain things. This is why it's so important for the remnant to be awake in this hour. And our last story, a little odd, but real. And I've actually confirmed the story in multiple places that are reporting this. So it's a very interesting thing. And how many know that we've seen more and more since the 70s, little by little, we've been sort of reintroduced to the fact that there are other humanoid type people on Earth, i.e. the Sasquatch and Bigfoot. And this is something that we've grown up with, maybe making fun of, right? Oh, come on, Bigfoot. Well, guess what? Sightings in the rise in Ohio as strange noises and Sasquatch-sized tracks are discovered. And reports of a possible Bigfoot resurgence in Ohio are mounting, with residents across the northeast part of the state describing eerie encounters, unexplained sounds, and massive footprints that some believe point to a large, unidentified creature roaming the wilderness. Well, I believe there's an entire race of them. Remember that the earth was filled with giants, something that they don't like to talk about. If you ask about that, well, the Smithsonian, every time there were giant bones found, they showed up, they got them, and they took them away. And they disappeared them as if they didn't exist, right? And we hear about the stories of the giants of Patagonia and all kinds of giants in our history that they just want to pretend don't exist. Well, do you think that these who are doing experiments with other animals didn't do experiments there as well? And so I am not surprised to see interdimensional even creatures that we still can't capture, who are intelligent enough to avoid human contact, yet live among us. So this now is sort of making our world more our world. I think that's why they don't want to leave the Mochaccino world. I think that's why they stay inside their 15-minute cities, because they're scared of the real world. I mean, know that you are called to be strong and courageous. That means you tread on serpents and scorpions and go where they're afraid to go. I do believe that that's what our fate is. I believe that we are no longer going to be it's no longer going to be acceptable for us to be among them. Just as Revelation 18 said, it said that we would come out of her, my people. You know what else it said? It said there would be angels that would shut the mouths of liars in the market, and that their voice would be heard no more in the market. I believe that day is coming quickly. Well, that's it for tonight. I pray this broadcast, this report, has been an encouragement to you wherever you are. And I'm certainly grateful for every one of you that make Remnant House your home, because without you, we couldn't do it. And because you're here, because you stand together as brethren, as a family, we are able to make this happen. So thank you so much for every soul, for every heart that's encouraged along the way. That is credit to your account. Well, thank you so much for joining us. Again, I pray your house is Baruch this evening. Shalom.